Wow, I don't like this. Oh my god, I don't like this at all. Hello. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Izzy. This is my first kind of real video for my rebranding. If you hadn't seen my last video, I made an announcement that I'm kind of revamping my channel a little bit and kind of revamping my other channel too. If you didn't know, I actually have a second channel that I literally never used because I couldn't think of anything for it. If you haven't seen that video, I will leave it linked down below and at the end of this video. Today, I'm going to be doing a January 2022 reading wrap up. Yes, this might be a little late considering it's like almost the middle of February, but in my defense, I didn't know I was going to do this video. I love these videos. If you love these videos, let me know. I'm going to be doing them every single month. This is the very first book that I read in 2022, which is... oh, this book was so good. This is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I think a ton of people have read this. She has another famous book, Beach Read. I think honestly one of my favorite romance books I have ever read, and that's a very big statement. Also, I'm sorry if you can see this. This bothers me too. It's the Target sticker. I wanted to take it off. This is one of my favorite romance books because the romance and the connection that these characters actually have feels so genuine and so real to me, and it feels like their problems are very realistic and not just like, you know how some movies and books are like, okay, that would never actually happen in real life. Like, nobody has meet cutes on the daily, but nobody does that. Nobody does instantaneous love. Like, nobody has relationships like that. And this relationship felt so real. Basically, it's about these two characters named Poppy and Alex, and they are best friends, and they go on vacation every single summer because Poppy's really into traveling, and I think she makes Alex kind of like tag along with her to kind of like have fun, and they just kind of bond through it. One summer though, they have a falling out, and something kind of weird happens. So it's been like a couple years later, and Poppy decides that she wants to reconnect again with Alex, and so she decides that they should go on another vacation together, and so they go on another vacation, and it'll just kind of spiral into that. I love Emily Henry's book so far. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars, so it was a great start to my 2022, and it's such a good book. Read it. The next book I read was Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McKeeston. This book was okay to me. This is a story about the first son of the United States and a prince from England who start off hating each other and having that enemies trope, and then through an event that has happened, they are forced to become friends. So it's kind of like enemies to fake friends to lovers kind of thing. I'm going to talk about pros first because I think there's good things about this book and there's bad things about this book. First thing I love how obviously I love how it's LGBTQ story. I love reading different perspectives. I love how it talks about especially the Prince of England. I hope this isn't a spoiler. I don't think this is a spoiler, but if it is, I'm sorry. But I really love how in the story it talks about how like the Prince of England, he is struggling to come out to his family because his family won't accept him, that he's gay, and I love how it talked about that. I also loved the dialogue in this. I thought the dialogue was very cute and funny and witty. The cons, I don't love how they got together. To me, it felt very rushed in some sense because I hate instant love romances. I've noticed that about myself. I noticed that when I'm reading a romance book and I notice that it's an instant love story, I kind of am like, this isn't going to be good, it's going to be cringy, it's going to be blah, 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 blah. I felt like they needed to be friends for a longer period. I felt like they didn't really get to know each other much besides hanging out in a closet together, which I do find is very ironic and kind of funny. I feel like their feelings emotionally didn't connect, rather their sexual experiences matched up a lot more, which is fine. And I kind of felt like it was the only reason they got together is for them to kind of have intercourse with each other, if that makes sense. I wasn't invested enough for them as like a couple because of that aspect, that it only felt like I was reading sex scenes instead of them getting to know each other. That's why I made it to 3. Although I will say, if you like spicy books, it is pretty spicy. She goes into some details. I'm like, oh, Okay then. Next book I read is The Hawthorne Legacy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Sorry, I forgot who that was for a second. This is the second book of the Inheritance Games. If you know what the Inheritance Games are, it's basically about this girl. She is like dirt poor basically, and she gets inheritance from this woman that she's an and she ends up being a billionaire. And imagine Bill Gates coming to you, and when he's like dead and stuff, or not coming to you when he's dead. Imagine like Bill Gates' lawyers coming and finding you, instead of being like, oh shit, I'm getting sued. You're like, oh shit, I'm inheriting billions of dollars. I'm getting all of Microsoft. I'm getting his football stadium. I'm getting his 6,000 houses. Like, I'm getting all of this. The second book, I feel like I can't really talk about what the second book's about because I feel like it kind of will spoil the first book. I gave the second book 4 stars. The next book I read is It Happens One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This is part of, I think she's doing a duology or something with the 2 sisters. This is about Piper, who is like a, she's not like an heiress or anything. She's like this socialite in California, and she's just kind of living it up. She likes to party a lot. And then one day this big party happens and things kind of go wrong, and her dad decides to, he's done raising a spoiled rich brat basically, and he wants her to go learn some life lessons where her mom used to live. It's like this ocean view town called Westbrook. He's gonna let her kind of rough it out and just kind of like, you need to learn some stuff. Go learn some stuff. While she's in Westbrook, she meets this guy. What the f is his name? Oh, Brendan. Yes. She meets this guy named Brendan who is a sailor, and he's a captain of his own ship. And then it just kind of talks about how their relationship kind of forms together. People have like described this trope as like grumpy sunshine. Why I loved this story, it was so cute because I loved their relationship. I could tell that the characters actually care about each other. Then it makes me more inclined to rate the book higher. I read this book in 2 days and I loved it. It was so good. I actually ranked it 5 stars because I loved it so much, because it felt like Brendan really cared about her. I just noticed that. I love guys that care. We love men that can actually show emotion and care about their women and treat them like princesses. It's just so cute. He's so loyal for her. He's a very acts of service kind of guy. If you know, you know. And it's a little steamy. If you don't like steam, that's okay. But it is kind of steamy. It is Tessa Bailey after all. But it's a great book. I really liked it. The next book I read was Broken by Jenny Lawson. I used to love Jenny Lawson in like high school, and I would read like all of her books. This is a book I actually didn't know she came out with, and I think she came out with it pretty recently, so I read it. It's basically, it's kind of like her other stories where she kind of talks about her depression and her anxiety and how she feels like she's a little bit of an outcast. Instead of it making it sound like you feel bad for her, she makes it sound funny, if that's the right word. She uses very funny scenarios because she seems like kind of like an awkward person who kind of gets herself stuck in like scenarios that you would kind of be like kind of caught off. Her writing is so funny too, because it feels like, it's weird because it kind of feels like, imagine you're on FaceTime with somebody. That's her, like, that's like how my brain can like interpret it. It feels like you're on FaceTime with her and she's talking to you about her life in text form. It makes sense in my head. I love this book. I love Jenny Lawson. I think she's so funny. I think she's so quirky. And I just love everything that she writes. I think it's so good. I ranked this 4 stars. If you want to read someone's kind of perspective on how they deal with anxiety and depression and all the fucked up things that happen in their life, but kind of make it into a sense where it's not shaming themselves about it and shaming it. It's more kind of making a little bit of a lighthearted joke about it, and without also telling kind of funny stories that happen and just kind of awkward fun stories. It's a fun little book and I would recommend it. Sometimes it does talk about some dark stuff though, so it's still a depression and anxiety book, so just throwing that out there. The next book I read is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I've heard so many people talk about Daisy Jones and the Six, and I was so excited. I'm gonna do my pros and cons list again. Pros, I loved how it honestly was set up. You're reading a interview almost, but it kind of feels like one of those documentaries you would watch about like a late 80s a pop band or rock band that happened, and you're like watching the documentary of how they blew up and all the like all the famous leads and stuff, and they're doing interviews on the documentary. Things I didn't like, because of the writing though, it felt like it was hard to you couldn't really get attached to one character, even though it's like, I know everyone makes mistakes, people make mistakes in real life, and the characters make mistakes. Some of the characters, you find them to be super dislikable almost, and you're just like, okay, well, why would I like want to get attached to you if you're like an asshole? Genuinely couldn't feel myself gravitating towards was like one certain character, loving one certain character, even when relationships were getting developed, I couldn't really feel, I didn't care much about the relationship. It was just kind of meh to me. So in the end, unfortunately, I ranked it, I think 3 stars. Yeah, I ranked it 3 stars. I wish I liked it a little bit more. Next book I read was Donut Fall in Love by Jackie Lau. This was a very random book I saw at the library, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna pick it up. I'm gonna read it. Why not? It was cute. I loved the cover. The cover is super adorable. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna read it. This book is just boring. It's a romance book about these 2 characters. Lindsay is a business owner, and she owns a bakery. And then the guy, what's the guy's name? David? Not David. David? Ryan, who is an actor, and he gets invited to do a cooking show kind of thing, where it's like a celebrity cooking show kind of thing, and he asks Lindsay to kind of help him with the baking show and kind of teach him how to bake a little bit so he doesn't make a complete fool of himself on the reality show. And it just kind of talks about their relationship from there. One, I did not like the writing of this story at all. It's very juvenilely written, and it's not YA. It is an adult book. Honestly, it's kind of boring. I think like the bakery aspect is cute, and like how they make donuts and stuff is kind of cute, and like the aesthetic of baking is so cute, but it's a romance story. The romance is boring. It's a very insta-love kind of story, you know, I don't really love that. It goes into the perspective of both Ryan and Lindsay, so it's the dual perspectives, but neither of their perspective is like interesting at all. They are just like, he like walks into a bakery one day, accidentally gets donuts. He accidentally like spills all the donuts she had in her hands. She's like, what are you doing? Standing up to a celebrity who's gorgeously handsome and positively chiseled, and what are you doing? My matcha donuts are all over the floor. Oh, I'll pay for them. No, what I have to make all the other ones will never have any more. It's just not good. So I rated this a 2 star. Next book I read is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I have been wanting to read this since it kind of went a little bit viral, and I'm so glad I did. I was kind of in a reading slump after reading Don't Fall in Love because I just didn't love it that much. And I'm so glad I picked up The Love Hypothesis because it got me out of it so fast. I read this book in a night. In the night, I finished it. And it's so good. Like, not surprisingly, because everybody loves it. But I didn't think I'd love it that much. I loved the story. It's so cute. Although I will say, the beginning of the story, not the prologue is fine. The beginning, the first chapter is it's a little chuggy for me, a little cringy, I'm not gonna lie. Basically saying that Olive is like, she's like a grad student, and then she is trying to like make her friend feel better about dating this one guy that she used to date, and she's like totally over the guy that she used to date, and she wants her friend to feel comfortable dating him, so she's trying to act like she's dating somebody else so her friend doesn't feel awkward about dating the guy that she used to date. That makes sense? So her friend's like walking down the hallway, and she's like panicking because she's like, oh wait, I told her I was gonna be on a date tonight instead of being at the lab or whatever. So she turns to like the closest person to her and just gives them a big old kiss. That makes me hurt a little bit because that's so cringy to me. I can't imagine like walking down the hallway, seeing your friend and being like, I'm supposed to be on a date. The person she kisses is like a teacher at the grad school, so it's It's really weird. And she's like, I'm so sorry. I'm just like trying to... Her excuse was so lame though. Like, that's so lame. I'm sorry. But for plot convenience, I'll let it slide. After that though, and when they're kind of creating this relationship, they're fake dating and kind of turning into a relationship, I actually really enjoyed it. I love how they got to know each other. I think it was really nice. I felt like he was such a gentleman, and I thought she was kind of annoying sometimes, but I'll let it slide. And then at the end it gets really good because then there's like a little twist that kind of happens, and I was like, oh, okay. That caught me off guard, but like it's kind of good. And I loved how she was like, what the fuck? And it was great. I loved it. I loved the story. It was great. 5 stars. The last book, because this video is already so long, the last book that I read is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I actually ended up reading the series, but that'll be next month because technically this is the last day of January is when I finished this book. I read this book and finished it on January 31st. Basically about this girl. It's about a girl and a world and a fairy world. But it's about this girl named Jude, and her family is kind of like killed by this one guy. Is one of her sister's real dad, and he's a fairy. Well, since he just killed 2 people in front of these 5-year-old kids, he was like, well, I guess I'll take them with me. I'll take the burden of being dad, I guess. So they take him to fairy world, and then they grow up, and it tells about her struggles of being immortal in the fairy world and how she just wants to be a knight. She wants to get into politics. I actually really enjoyed this story. I thought it was actually really well written. I actually really enjoy YA fantasy. I think it's comprehensible enough for me, my small brain, to work. I really liked this story. I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't my favorite story, but you'll have to wait when I talk about February because I read the rest of the books and I'll tell you my thoughts about those. I am done rambling about my January wrap up. I read 9 books, which tell me you got a big dick without telling me you got one. I know. I'm just kidding. A little sneak peek. I feel like I want to do these. I think this will be fun. I'm going to show you sneak peeks of what my February reading wrap up is going to look like. I'm actually reading 2 books currently because I got tired of one of them. The first book though is Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. I'm also reading The Heart Principle by Helen Hogan? I don't know. I would figure I'd give you a little spoiler. See, they're from the library, so yeah. But if you really want to know what I'm reading, you can follow my Goodreads. I'll leave it linked down below. I use Goodreads pretty often. That is it. Stay tuned for February reading wrap up. That'll be coming when February is over and it's the beginning of March. But thank you for watching. Let me know what videos you want to see. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out, homies. Oh, my boob is itchy. Okay.